Hi everyone, my name's Marc Jackson. I'm the Regional Technical Manager at Cambium Networks. And yes, I'm that nerdy type who really doesn't like standing up in front of people doing a talk like this. So if you can bear with me, if I need to compose myself at any point, we'll get through this and we can get to the beers at the end. So let me start with a short story on how I ended up here today. It was a Friday evening, we just put the girls down, and I was minding my own business. And I was sent an email by Matt asking if I would like to present. My initial thought was, nope, no way, not a cat's chance. However, my wife, firstly unhappy that I was looking at my work phone on a Friday evening at 8 o'clock, saying, what's so important? I told her that I'd been asked to present at Wi-Fi Design Day, and she actually encouraged me to do it. So after taking her advice as to ignore it isn't worth doing sometimes, and as the Barbican was home to the Royal Shakespeare Company for many years, I thought this quote was quite apt. So from Act 4, Scene 2, from Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, there is a tide in the affairs of men, which, taken at the flood, leads on to fortune. Admitted, all the voyage of the life is bound in the shallows and in miseries. On such a full sea are we now afloat, and we must take the current when it serves, or lose our ventures. But this is basically saying seize the day. If you don't take an opportunity, you might lose it, not know what would happen, or even be offered it again. And after this presentation, I might not be. But here I am now. There's probably something more philosophical about it. I'm quite dark. But right now, I've taken the opportunity, I've boarded the ship, and we are on the current. So after playing a couple of games of email tennis with Matt, we settled on this topic. I'm going to try spend the next 15, 20, 30, 40 minutes or so talking to you on some of my experience working in the wireless industry and the changes and some introductions of tech that have happened in healthcare environments and have somewhat altered the approach to a design in those environments. I started in the industry in 2009, unofficially. And in 2011, I became a systems engineer working at Xeris. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Xeris, but they used to have these great big access points, 4 radio, 8 radio, 12, even 16 radio access points. They were huge. One of the first projects I worked on was actually surveying in a hospital. Back then, the requirements were low. Coverage everywhere. Light number of wireless clients, neg 72, even neg 80 coverage in some places. And effectively, it was just to service what we call cows. Cows as computers on wheels, not the ones that go moo. And again, just some wireless VoIP clients that were getting introduced at the time. I remember having to survey at Alder Hay Children's Hospital, not the new fancy one, the old one, which like most hospitals are built to last with some nice thick walls. This actually made it interesting to survey. You've probably seen this yourselves, but has anyone ever done a survey where they've put an access point up, they've walked to the other side of the room, into the other room, and they just get nothing? Yeah? There we go, a few hands up. Over on the your left-hand side, the thickest wall shown is actually 1 meter thick. It's about 39 inches. I'll let someone do the conversion. On the right hand side, any wall that was in black was actually solid concrete. Now, at Alder Hay, this was a coverage play back then. It wasn't too difficult. It was more about just putting the access point in the right place and trying to get neg 72, neg 80. Sometimes you'll get down to neg 67 if you had a VoIP requirement. The hardest part was actually lugging around a flying saucer and a tripod and a laptop and a spare battery and 75 metres of cable, walking around the hospital and getting asked all those questions, what are you doing? The technology at the time, 2009 to 2012-ish, the designs that I was being asked to do were mainly for coverage, for 1 or 2 VoIP devices in certain locations, and again, the main reason for the cows, the computers on wheels. Now, these devices have also changed over time. Back then, they could be an old desktop or a tower computer with a USB dongle. That USB dongle was plugged into the back of that tower or desktop device inside a metal box. But as times changed, these have now moved on to a more laptop style, or even cows with dual monitors and other scanners connected to them. But over time, as I said, these devices started to change, and so did the requirements. Introduction of more devices into a network. There was also a discussion and use cases regarding basic wireless location-based tracking. For example, in 1 or 2 hospitals, particular assets such as bariatric beds, people needed to find where those beds are. Not every single bed in a hospital is a bariatric style. So if a bed has been moved out of the way, how does someone know where it is? So what they've done is they put a Wi-Fi tag on those beds, and they could actually use the management platform at the time to locate where that bed was. But when they started trying to improve accuracy, the design also then had to start changing yet again. This here is actually taken from an ITT output specification back in about 2015, 2016. Don't worry, I'm not going to read it out. I'll let you guys read it. But it's clear that over time, more and more technology and devices are becoming connected, such as the mobile digital radiographic machine. We've gone from basic coverage approach to an approach that requires more thinking to offer RTLS, VoIP, better signal strengths across the board to allow for these devices and new technologies to be used. So I'm going to stop there for a moment. How can a design tool like AI Pro help achieve in these designs? Firstly, I wish I had AI Pro back then. Not only can we do an access point on a stick survey, verification surveys, desktop designs. Desktop designs are great. They're great as initial pass before even doing an access point on a stick survey, especially in a hospital environment. Hospitals are huge. Do you want to go and spend 2-3 weeks surveying a hospital before even finding out if you're going to actually have a design that's going to meet a budget? We can also change the criteria in the design tool to see if we pass or fail on a set of criteria, for example, VoIP. So moving from Ekahau best practices over to location tracking, that'll actually change a bunch of the criteria. One of those being the RSSI level down to -62. Each one of these can help with the design and the changes and the addition in technology. You can even set up custom requirements to meet the needs of projects based on the devices and the design criteria. And then once the criteria is selected, you can then visualize this on screen to see if a design is a pass and fail, as we saw earlier. Now, the next issue is now guest access. Like most places we go here today, hotels, it is the same in hospitals. People want to be connected, even if it's during a hip operation, to watch the cricket. So basically, true story, short story. This lady was asked if she wanted to listen to something specific during the procedure. I don't know if anyone's ever had a hip operation, but apparently they're quite noisy. This lady actually asked if she could listen to the cricket. So what the hospital staff did for her is they actually went and got an iPad for her and did one better and told her that she could actually watch it. So she actually watched the cricket during that hip operation. But having a good design and environment like this actually allows for streaming media, but also allows for loved ones to stay in touch. Not just by phone calls, but also by video calls. But for this to work, the design has had to change for the better. Suddenly, density and performance start coming into play, as well as just the coverage. To give you an idea, the density that's being asked for, and this is data shown from NHS Digital, in 2021 to 2022, 15.9 million final admission episodes were recorded across the NHS here in the UK. Now that's not just one hospital or all at one time, but in a year, but still shows how we've gone from a simple design to what we should consider today. A hospital might have 200 to 1,000 beds, but that's 200 to 3,000 extra devices that you've got to start thinking about. Video calling is also interesting, and this has also led to other technology introductions. You've probably seen these on TV before. I was involved a number of years ago to set up a proof of concept to allow a device like this, a telepresence robot, to be operated around the ward for doctors, consultants to be able to talk to the patients, review notes, talk to the care staff, the nurses, etc. Now imagine being able to use AI Pro with autopilot with this. It'd actually take that desktop design to a whole new level. You've heard it here first if it happens. So over the years, I've been in the fortunate position to visit multiple hospitals for Wi-Fi surveys, access points on a stick, and verification surveys. Hospitals are large and have interesting wall makeups. Some are original, nice and thick, some are new. Some are hospitals that have actually been built onto. If you can get an agreement for a paid survey ahead of time, fantastic. But sometimes, as I mentioned before, a desktop design can get you a budget figure first to see if you're on the right track, before tackling the mammoth task of being able to get access. Wards, clinics, theatres, X-ray departments, emergency departments, morgues, offices, laboratories, and all the other fun places in a hospital. It's not a 9-to-5 survey either. You do have to work out of hours most of the time. I remember doing some theatres at 4 AM once. It's quite grim. So looking at design done in 2011, what would it look like today with the considerations already mentioned? So here is the rough previous design based on some historical report I found. I've ran it through AI Pro. By the way, has anyone spotted the wall detection feature in AI Pro yet? Yeah? It saves a lot of time. So it saved me a lot of time anyway. But looking back at what was surveyed for here was 5 excess access points. Now these are no longer actually in AI Pro software, so I've actually used XN, which is .11n version. And this hospital was a newer build type. But it was actually designed for negative 72 coverage. If I now design it today, and I could have put the APs on myself, but I decided to use the AI Auto Planner. And I've decided to select an Aruba 515 AP, not because I like it, but because I want to try to be as neutral as possible. You can use any access point, by the way. I've gone and clicked on the advanced settings, set the requirement to RTLS, and I've let AI Pro do its thing, giving us 44 access points and a nice 100% coverage on 5 gig. Again, this was done quickly to show the difference in approach from years ago to what we need to plan for today. And it also allowed me to play with some nice AI Pro features. You can even add capacity of devices with device types to the area as well. Now looking at them side by side, I know which one a finance manager will want. But it does allow for a completely different design in 12 years. It's not all about coverage or how little APs you can put in. It's about designing the network that's fit for purpose and for the design criteria given. Cambium Networks actually deployed Wi-Fi into 232 hospital emergency departments for medical triage systems and cardio monitors. All 232 departments within different locations. I'm not going to talk about which AP was used, It's
Which was it?
or why that they were selected. What I want to do is I actually want. Why does that? It's a Mac. That's what it is. It just keeps jumping forward. It wants me to finish. And I'll hold that button down. Yeah, I'm going to blame a colleague for that. They gave me the slide. Yeah, no, it is. Okay, I'll go back to this one. I'm not going to talk about which APs were used or why Cambium was selected. That's not what I'm here for today.
Why?
What? It's about wireless design. What I want to do is I actually want you to take a minute and think, how would you approach a 232 hospital emergency department design? Would you like to go and visit all 232 hospitals to do an access point on a stick survey? Or would you rather... or would you rather sit down, let AI Pro do its thing? Would you select a couple of... Would you do a desktop design, then select a couple of hospitals to go and verify that design, and that design approach was going to work? So whether you're designing for coverage, there are a lot of things to consider in healthcare environments. There's no animation on this slide. I can guarantee you that one. Okay, I'll just keep pressing back. There are a lot of things to consider in healthcare environments. Hospitals aren't small. They have a lot of areas not seen to the public.
Start from the beginning.
Walls can be deceptive. There are thousands of systems that will need to... I'm going to give you that. Right, every time it does it, just click back for us.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. You've done this to me. Thousands of systems that will need connecting that you might not realise. Heating, IoT, TVs, patient monitoring systems, patient access, innovative tech, robotics, remote access, even porter robots are being used today. And in some hospitals, even wayfinding. Utilising tools like AI Pro can help you a lot. The environment is ever-changing. Next slide. Yeah. And following the three-step approach, design, validate, health checks, you'll be able to advise on the end user's needs and keep taking those 3 steps. Do a health check, does it need a new design? Validate that design. Regular health checks will keep that network healthy. And finally, get the right gear for a hospital deployment. A lightweight but sturdy. And I'm sure if you talk to your professional colleagues among you, you'll tell each other what you're using if you ask that nicely enough. And if not, I'm sure one of the open reality guys will show you something for an AP on a stick survey. And also using autopilot, an iPad or tablet with AI Pro would come in handy. I've tried to keep this talk as vendor agnostic as possible, and hopefully you all appreciate it. Thank you for listening and sticking with me, and hopefully this has given you some insights into when an environment changes or adapts to new technology. By utilising a tool such as the AI Pro, that it can actually help assist the design, especially when the change in specification happens. This will actually allow you to give a new design and continue to provide good Wi-Fi. Thank you again.
Question. We have a question before you leave, Mark.
I didn't ask for questions.
Well, well done for your first presentation. That was amazing, actually, to be honest.
It's okay. Not
I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you.
not the first presentation of
That was the
this
question,
size.
yes. How
Of this
close to the final installed product was the AI Pro's evaluation of that hospital that you presented?
The
The slide that you had up, yeah. With the
with the
2009-10 model that you had that was 70 plus
Oh.
decibel.
so that was actually just a desktop design for this presentation to show that if I was to use the criteria that I was speaking about, that how that design would actually change. The one with the 5 access points, that was actually deployed in 2011. It's definitely not deployed like that now. Times have changed. I would actually assume that it's going to be very close to what the design is today, because things have gone and changed a lot in 12 years.
Thank you, Mark.
I've got a question on that project you've done in Poland. So basically you've done like over 200 hospitals, right? Desktop design, right? So you have to heavily relying on the site drawing you've been given by your customers, right? In percentage, after you've done the post-survey, yeah, your data before from the planning and after, you know, in percentage, how those drawings and you know, like was interpretation was right or was wrong?
So I didn't do that one because I don't cover the Polish region. However, I believe that there was about 10% extra APs needed overall based on the drawings that were given. Hospitals get renovated all the time. New walls go up. There'll be what was a storeroom that is now a little office, right? So.
Or they keep their patients there because it's Poland. So.
Right. Okay. The information that you get is critical. You can only do a good design if you've got the right information. You're going to be designing for the information that you've been given. You can always try to be a bit more cautious, but then that can lead into obviously commercial issues.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Mark. Mark was telling me before his presentation that this is the most nervous he's been for any presentation ever. So I think did a great job. I think it's deserves another round of applause.